let's go into national affairs. And it's been a couple of weeks since we've had a program that focuses on things internationally. I know we've talked the reduction in tariffs for our beef farmers recently. But of course, and I'm not going to call it the forgotten war, but the long-running conflict in the Ukraine continues. And with peace of sorts in the Middle East, or certainly a de-escalation there, international diplomacy is still looking at Ukraine and the terrible situation there. And I have been reading peripherally suggestions that some sort of peace deal is in the offing, brokered by the controversial US President Donald Trump, but that it might involve compromises the Ukrainians are not prepared to make. So I thought I'd get myself a good brief. We could all get a good brief on what's happening. Robert Patman is the guy to do that. He joins us by video link now. Robert, how are you?
Good morning, Sean. I'm fine, thank you.
All right, what is going on at the moment diplomatically? I know the conflict still continues. I still get pictures of people bloody blowing each other up in tanks and things on my algorithmic feed in my social media. Are there signs that this could be negotiated to an end?
Well, certainly negotiations are in play, and Mr. Trump is has just dispatched his Russia envoy, Steve Witkoff, to Moscow. This follows discussions between Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, and the Ukrainian team, as well as input from European leaders. Now, what kicked this thing off, the recent spate of negotiations, was Mr. Trump, in secret consultation with the Russians, produced a document, a 28-page document, a 28-point peace plan, which, first of all, this is not the State Department's finest hour. There was enormous confusion how the document been drawn up. Initially, Marco Rubio, who was pressed by angry Republican senators, there's no love for Mr. Putin in the Republican Party nor the Democrats Party, actually. And this document was seen as very one-sided, asked Mr. Rubio, how was this document produced? It was extraordinary, a complete departure from anything American foreign policy stands for. And he was told, this is just a Russian position paper, which we've been asked to develop. But then when it appeared that that Russian position paper had been transmitted to the Ukrainians as as American policy, the Americans then claimed ownership. So they switched. Marco Rubio.
Oh, okay. So suddenly this was the American, you guys should take this deal kind of position.
Yeah. So,
and the deal, I'm presuming, involves territorial compromise, which would be seen to be rewarding aggression.
Well, it's a capitulation document.
Yeah.
This country's been illegally invaded, its land has been stolen, and it's being asked, and not only that, according to the 28-point peace plan, it goes further than that, Sean. It's not a question of Mr. Putin being allowed to keep some of the territories he's got through annexation. It's also, he's being given, according to this plan, territories he hasn't currently won on the battlefield. So that is an extraordinary thing.
That sucks.
And that's gone down like a lead balloon with the Europeans and the Ukrainians.
Okay. But there is confusion as to what it is, and this is so typical of Trump. He is not a guy who thinks in a normal way or acts in a normal way. And I'll say, you'll disagree with me, Robert, that occasionally his lack of conventional methods actually does yield results. But this seems whack job. Have the Ukrainians responded to that document then?
They've been intensive negotiating. And what Zelensky's doing, unlike some of the people around him, he did not dismiss it, but said he was working closely with the Americans. In fact, Zelensky is going to Washington this week to meet Mr. Trump. And I think his fear is, or his concern is, he's got to work with Mr. Trump to try to fashion this document into something. And according to recent reports, the Ukrainian government now believes it's removed some of the more controversial aspects and produced a document that's more in Ukraine's interests. But the worrying thing, which was being repeated in the last 12 hours, Sean, is that Caroline Leavitt, the President Trump's press spokesman, continues to talk as if there's moral equivalency between the victim of an invasion and the country that's carried out the invasion. She was quoted as saying, this is the president's press spokesman, that we continue, quote, we continue to engage equally with both sides. Well, actually, you know, this is not a situation in which you can, I mean, if you fail to make a distinction between the country that's invading and the country that's the victim of the invasion, then you might as well throw international law in the bin.
But nevertheless, Robert, nevertheless, unconventional as it is, it does provide the opportunity for some sort of dialogue to begin. Zelensky has taken that opportunity in a military sense. And it strikes me that the problem with the Ukrainian conflict is it is starting to impact, and it is impacting, for instance, energy supplies in Europe and the stability of the whole European region. Where are NATO on this? Where is the EU on this?
Well, the NATO countries largely have been discussing the plan with Ukraine. They've produced their own 24-point plan, which, and there's no surprise here, any peace settlement has to recognize Ukraine's territorial integrity. It has to uphold international law. And above all, it has to respect Ukraine's sovereignty as an independent country, something Mr. Putin adamantly refuses to do. He does not recognize Ukraine is a country with sovereignty. And this is one of the basic problems here. And so, I mean, you know, we could be facing, Sean, a situation. I don't think Mr. Trump's going to change his tune about being pro-Putin. I think we're going to face a situation in the not too distant future where Europe and the United States are going to openly split over how to resolve the Ukraine situation. Let's be quite clear. This situation can be resolved within hours if Mr. Putin withdraws his occupying force back to the internationally recognized borders of Russia. So let's be quite clear about this. He's got no intention of doing that. And from his point of view, it would be very dangerous to do that. But, I do think Mr. Trump is taking a bit of a risk now with his relationship with the Western European countries. And by the way, they are quietly digging in, not least because Mr. Trump urged them to raise their defense expenditure to 5%, which they have, many of them are beginning to do. So they're feeling, how should I put it, more inclined to dig in than if they were totally dependent on American security support.
They actually have some defense independence. I get you. What's happening on... No, carry on.
I was just going to say, Sean, the other aspect of this equation we haven't discussed is Mr. Putin's very difficult economic situation. And no wonder he pushed for this initiative through Trump, because he's now selling gold to finance the war. He's got a mounting budget deficit, according to the Russian media. And there's also another thing that's not getting much traction in the media is the fact that the Ukrainians are carrying out a relentless drone and missile attack on Russia's energy infrastructure. We hear a lot, quite rightly, about the Russian attacks on Kyiv and other energy infrastructure in Ukraine. But it's also happening relentlessly in the other direction. What is worrying for the Russians? In the last 6 months, the war has come to Russia, and it's happening on a nightly basis. So, in a sense, and this has been pointed out by people like Dr. Nigel Gould-Davis at the Chatham House, if anything, Ukraine's better equipped to pursue a long battle of resistance and resilience to this invasion than Mr. Putin is able to continue. In other words, time may not be on Putin's side. So he obviously wants diplomacy to do what he can't achieve on the battlefield. After 3.5 years, Russia controls less than 20% of Ukraine. And that is not a great strategic victory. It's come at a cost of more than 1 million Russian
And I'm
soldiers.
sure it was
like,
not Mr. Putin, what Mr. Putin envisaged 3.5 years
No.
ago when he launched his strike. I look at that and I think, gosh, another 6 months. It's gone on as long as World War One. It's kind of like they've, it
and
is
it's-
a major conflict.
It is, and it's the worst conflict Europe has experienced since the Second World War, and the most dangerous one because there's an attempt by one party to change borders by force. And what has infuriated the Europeans, although they're very, very diplomatic about this, they're not saying this in public, but they're saying it privately, is that Mr. Trump doesn't seem to have absorbed a historic lesson that the Europeans have learned, that if you appease aggression, it only leads to wider war. And as we've discussed before in your program, Sean, the danger of a peace settlement which rewards Mr. Putin's invasion is that he may decide 6 months down the track that he may need a little bit more land. Now, how's the world going to respond to that?
Well, I must admit, I think Mr. Trump understood about not appeasing aggression in the Gaza conflict, didn't he? And he did quite well. They finally got that de-escalated thanks to Mr. Trump, didn't it?
I don't know. I mean, I think you and I disagree on the Gaza thing. Where I see this is, I see it as a battle between the Palestinians' right to self-determination and the Israelis' determination to have control of those territories.
Oh, yeah.
But put it this way, you mentioned something earlier, which we must give Mr. Trump credit for. He does launch cut-through ideas. He's unconventional, but his grasp of detail is a problem. Take the ceasefire in Gaza, Sean. It's not really holding.
It's not really.
And he's not monitoring it.
Yeah.
All
right. Is there a timeline here? Are there any deadlines that we can look through to see if things have changed?
Well, there was a deadline for today, Thursday.
Yeah.
But I think that's been quietly relaxed because I think Mr. Trump said that Zelensky had to accept this or else America would cut off all US intelligence support. He's come into what's got Mr. Trump backing up is not so much the Europeans, but the reaction of people of his own Republican Party. And by the way, only about 16% of public opinion, according to the most recent poll, shares Mr. Trump's view that Zelensky's the bad guy and Putin's the good guy.
Yeah.
It's the other way around for most Americans. And I know Mr. Trump's very keen on leadership and leading from the front, but the problem is he's got to do it with domestic support. So I think he's realizing he's got to try to at least come up with a diplomatic solution, which he's seen amongst his allies as well as his own party in power as fair.
Yeah. Robert, always interesting. Thank you very, very much
Thank you
for taking the time. Always nice to talk to you. Professor Robert Patman there. An update on the Ukrainian conflict, which 3.5 years. 3.5 years, folks. That is long running.